Texas A&M expanding its options for women's health care. See more on the one-of-a-kind education. We're celebrating the miracle stories at children's hospitals. Tonight, see a story that one of the hardest for parents to go through.
And it looks like things will be starting off pretty nice as we head toward Good Friday around here, but there'll be a couple of thunderstorm chances on into Easter weekend, but it does look like it'll be on the warmer side. Your 25 News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley. This is KRHD News.
Thanks for joining us for KRHD News at 6. I'm Brittany DeFran. The Rockdale Hospital closed its doors in 2019, a vacant campus sprawling with weeds where doctors and patients met for service. But the school district there is breathing new life into the vacant building. Here's Rebecca Fiedler with tonight's big story.
The exam rooms and offices of the Rockdale Hospital, known as Little River Healthcare, have stood vacant since 2018, only occasionally used for one-off events. Now, Rockdale ISD will be receiving the building as a donation from the hospital district.
So the hospital district was talking about putting it out for bid, and we just thought, the whole saying about doesn't hurt to ask. It's just across the street from our high school, so there's 40,000 square feet here. And if we tried to build something this size, we couldn't afford to do that.
The school district will completely own the property by this summer and will be able to collect rent from a home and small clinic on the plot as well. The district hopes to start hosting dual credit courses and community night classes in conjunction with Temple College at this location as early as fall of 2023.
The hospital, with its design and space, is truly perfect because we'll be able to deliver those high technical pathways in multiple industry sectors.
Right now, Rockdale High School students can already receive 12 dual credit hours through Temple College. The dream with these classrooms is to make full associate's degrees accessible in Rockdale for Rockdale residents and people in surrounding towns. Already, the district is planning to move 9 instructors into the building, freeing up much needed classroom space at the high school.
Krhd Ponce, who runs Temple College, wants to have a presence here in the county. We want them in the county. She has filed for a huge $11 million grant that will be used, if we get it, to renovate this building. And she will, I hope, will have space in this building for higher education.
As the district waits for the ownership to fully pass over and to receive news on the grant, they are dreaming of all that could be. Munzingo hopes to make use of existing features for education, such as the hospital kitchen area. Reporting in Rockdale, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
And over at Texas A&M, their new women's clinic is a big success, treating a variety of needs for their female body. It's also giving students hands-on experience and new skills for healthcare. Our Diamond Dixon shows us what they have to offer.
Medical students at Texas A&M will have the opportunity to do clinicals at Women's Care Plus Clinic and learn a variety of skills.
I'm really looking forward to being part of that building of what it is, that women are going to want to look for, and having the opportunity to teach students, medical students, probably the nurse practitioners, things like that, and offer them the opportunity of taking care of this population.
Dr. Guerin is looking forward to helping the future generation of doctors and nurses gain exposure in the field and community.
I think that we have a lot to offer with our patient diversity, and we'll be able to give a broad spectrum of women's issues and ages and things like that to the students as they come through. So it's just an exciting time.
Services offered in the women's clinic include generic women's exams, birth control, aesthetics, and soon, behavioral and mental health services. Reporting in College Station, Diamond Dixon, KRHD News.
Dental hygiene is a growing concern during the pandemic, especially with kids. That's why Blaine College is offering free dental care to children in the Brazos Valley. KRHD News reporter Chris Talley shows us why it's giving patients something to smile about.
After a 2-year hiatus, Blaine Dental students get to put their knowledge of the classroom back to work for this annual clinic. Since 2008, Blaine students have been participating in the Give Kids a Smile clinic. Dana Woods, instructor for the dental hygiene program, says she is ready to see this make a return to the Brazos Valley.
All of the Give Kids a Smile have taken a hard hit for their families because we haven't been able to provide care for them. So it's great to get back in there, and we can plan on continuing to do it every year as long as we can. This is our 12th year, so as long as I'm here, I know it'll keep running, and I think whoever comes after me will also do the same because Brazos Valley has a high area of need.
According to Blinn Dental, students and volunteers have provided more than $200,000 in free dental services for Brazos Valley children between 2008 and 2019. Blinn hygiene student Lauren Denham organized this year's clinic and is ready to make the children smile about seeing the dentist.
I love the whole concept of it, of making a visit fun and exciting and something that kids will look forward to, because a lot of times, going to see the dentist isn't the most fun thing for kids, and so it's really great that we do get to bring those smiles to kids' faces.
Denham says the best way to keep families of the Brazos Valley smiling is by staying informed about health topics.
Something that we really considered this year as well is talking to the parents more and making sure that we provide them with education and with resources so that they can seek continued dental care through us or for their children and for themselves as well.
Wood says volunteers keep the Give Kids a Smile clinic going strong year after year.
The Brazos Valley Dental Society gifted us 2 sensors for our x-rays, which is very expensive, and that allowed us to double the number of kids we see just simply with that one donation. The people we really have to thank are our community dental professionals, because without them this program wouldn't run.
Woods and her students are very excited for the comeback of this clinic and say if you missed out today, don't worry, there will be another one held in June. The date for that one is not yet determined, but the contact number for Blinn Dental is on our website at krhdnews.com. In Bryan, Chris Talley, KRHD News.
President Biden now facing steep odds as he embarks on a new mission to dramatically cut cancer-related deaths. Joe St. George takes an in-depth look at President's efforts and what could change over the next few years.
Life was moving along pretty much according to plan.
The thing about cancer,
completely broadsided.
It really doesn't care.
Unfortunately, they found a mass.
What plans you have.
Like your whole universe completely goes into skyfall.
Maybe you relate with Karen Hallie LaCamera.
I had a mass on my ovary.
Or maybe Dana Bernson's story.
He passed away in May.
She was just 29 when she lost her husband.
I am still angry.
There's a lot going on in our country.
We can end cancer as we know it.
But one issue that may fly a bit under the radar is what President Biden is calling his cancer moonshot. It's modeled after President Kennedy's dream of going to the moon. In his budget proposal last month, the president requested billions from Congress for new research. He wants the death rate from cancer cut by at least 50% over the next 25 years.
But I got to be honest, so much of what's talked about in Washington never really happens. So I was curious, how close are we to really curing cancer?
For answers, we went to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston.
Can cancer be cured in our lifetime?
Cancer isn't just one thing.
Speak with doctors like Harold Bernstein.
The Kennedy moonshot was actually pretty easy. Cancer is a more complicated problem.
He says, first off, this moonshot is a lot harder. In the 60s, NASA had the science.
We don't have all the science we need.
But spending billions, he says, will help create better treatments and screenings.
We don't have a test to do early detection of pancreatic cancer.
Bernstein says taxpayer-funded research could change that in our lifetime, while a cure is less likely.
And would that be a blood test?
Probably be a blood test.
One of the biggest issues more funding might solve is access to screenings that work. He envisions fewer appointments in hospitals and more mobile vans that can provide screenings like mammograms.
It isn't cheap, but it's more expensive to treat cancers when they're advanced.
The doctor's biggest fear? The pandemic showed that when the government gets involved in healthcare, some distrust is created. For this to work, it can't be political. As for Karen and Dana,
how is it that I made it through?
Until a cure happens, they've found a way to beat the pain.
I was lucky to find a new fantastic partner.
Dana has remarried and volunteers with the American Cancer Society. Karen is in remission.
I think cancer's touched all of us.
In Boston, I'm Joe St. George.
Pfizer is looking to expand COVID-19 booster shots to children younger than 12. The company says new data shows younger kids who got the booster shot 6 months after their second dose produced antibodies high enough to fight off the Omicron variant. It was tested during the winter when Omicron cases were high. A booster shot is already recommended for everyone 12 and older. Pfizer plans to ask for FDA authorization soon. COVID cases are once again on the rise in the U.S. They're being driven by the more contagious Omicron variant known as BA2. Cases are up 8% across the country in the past 2 weeks, but they're trending higher in the Northeast. In Philadelphia, cases jumped by 50%, prompting the city to bring back its indoor mask mandate. It's the first major city to do that. Meanwhile, the federal mask mandate on public transportation, which was set to expire next week, has been extended another 2 weeks because of the uptick. As Maya Rodriguez reports, even as cases tick up, mask fatigue may be taking a toll.
In the city of brotherly love this week, a blast from the recent past. Masks are back in Philadelphia's indoor spaces.
If we wait to find out and to put our masks back on, we'll have lost our chance to stop the wave.
The mask mandate there follows an increase in COVID cases, both in that city and the Northeast as a whole.
There's a high population density and it's still fairly cold, so people aren't outside as often as they could be in other parts of the country. So all of those things could be contributing to it.
Dr. Jessica Holzer is with the University of New Haven, specializing in public health. She says, much like in the early days of the pandemic, the Northeast could be a canary in a coal mine of what awaits the rest of the country when it comes to COVID cases.
People from the Northeast will travel for spring break or something else, visiting family for Easter weekend. All those sorts of things might absolutely affect case rates across the rest of the country.
She says one thing could prevent that: wearing a high-quality mask.
Wearing a mask really does effectively cut down the spread.
But a new survey finds that Americans are over it. It shows most believe the pandemic is no longer a crisis. 75% call it a manageable problem, while 16% say it's no longer a problem at all.
There's a baseline fatigue that we are dealing with for sure, but it's also worth recognizing that the more we focus on that fatigue, the more that fatigue presents itself to us.
Dr. Holzer says that fatigue will also make it harder for public health officials to manage any future COVID surges.
But I believe that high quality public health decision making will say that at a certain point, once case rates get high enough, once test positivity gets high enough, it's time to reinstate that mask policy for population well-being.
Putting Americans' COVID exhaustion to the test. I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Maya, thank you for that report. Well, some employers are adding more background checks as they try to boost hiring. Why this is also causing concerns about the information being used unfairly.
On tonight's Consumer Alert, more unemployed people are seeking financial help. The Labor Department said 185,000 people filed for new jobless claims last week. That's slightly higher than the projected, but still historically low. New claims had fallen to the lowest point since 1968 in early April. Layoffs also remain low as employers race to fill record number of open jobs. Elon Musk could be the new face of Twitter, the CEO of Tesla offering to buy all the remaining shares he doesn't already own of the social media giant. According to filing from the SEC, Musk wants to pay $54.20 per share, which could value the company at nearly $43.5 billion. Musk says the cash offer is his best and final offer. Some of your Amazon purchases may cost more. Starting later this month, the online retailer will add a 5% fuel and inflation surcharge to its third-party sellers. It's the first time Amazon has implemented this kind of fee. It will apply to both apparel and non-apparel items. The fee hike on sellers could translate to higher prices for consumers. It's the latest example of how businesses are reacting to spiking energy and other costs. Federal data released earlier this week showed inflation jumped 8.5% in March. Peloton is slashing the cost of its pricey bikes and treadmill, but raising the price of its subscription service. The fitness company announced the move Thursday. The company says it wants more people to be able to afford its equipment, which includes the Peloton Bike, Bike Plus, and the Peloton Tread. At the same time, Peloton says it will charge current customers more for access to its fitness classes starting in June. U.S. customers will have to pay $44 a month for Peloton's all-access membership plan, above the $35 they'd pay now.
Our Clark roofing cam sky in motion, not really showing much happening in the sky. We've had a couple of high clouds here or there passing by as folks on the ground here been busy and bustling through their day as we're preparing for Easter weekend. Clouds and radar showing that it is pretty quiet out there. And over the next 24 hours, I expect it to be pretty quiet. There is some moisture down in the south, and some of those clouds will be moving in, and we'll probably have partly to mostly cloudy skies as we head into our Friday. So let's check out our future track showing some of those low clouds moving in Friday morning. This is 7 o'clock. Could be a little drizzle across our southern counties, maybe a few peaks of sunshine as well. But I do think it stays mostly cloudy tomorrow, maybe a better chance for a little bit of sunshine by about 3 to 5 p.m. as we will see some of those clouds break up across the area. It'll be warm with highs in the 80s. Then we get to Saturday, some clouds in the morning. And what we see Saturday morning, we may repeat that Sunday morning as well. So it probably is not going to be the best weather for sunrise services, as we'll have lots of clouds during the mornings and some drizzle by the afternoon. Probably pretty quiet around here. Could be an isolated storm or two. We'll go about 20%. Saturday afternoon. So tonight, temperatures will be into the 50s and 60s. We'll go about 58 in Bryan College Station, 56 in Madisonville, and 60 in Navasota. Then tomorrow, highs into the 80s, low to mid 80s area-wide. It is going to be a warm day for your Good Friday. Then on Saturday, 84 degrees, 20% chance of an isolated storm. Sunday, 30% chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms. 82 degrees for a high, and we will be looking at that potential for maybe 1 or 2 strong storms out there. Not expecting widespread severe weather, but a couple of hailstones can't be ruled out in the stronger thunderstorms over the weekend. Then more isolated thunderstorms Monday and Tuesday as temperatures come down into the upper 70s Monday, and we may have another chance for storms by Thursday of next week.
With a tight job market right now, some employers are changing how they do background checks. In addition to the initial background check, they're adding what's called continuous monitoring. These are regular checks of court records that happen after you've been hired.
Employees, I think, are increasing their expectation for safety and security across the board. And as a result of that, I think you see a lot of organizations that are trying to make sure that they're putting solutions in place to help support that.
Tom Miller with ClearForce works with employers who say they're adding continuous monitoring as they work to do more second chance hiring. That means hiring people with a criminal record. This impacts an estimated 70 million Americans. He says how long continuous monitoring lasts varies by company and industry.
Most importantly, they want to be able to provide environments where they can pick up on indications that would be helpful to them to get assistance to individuals that need assistance, to be able to really save and retain employees.
But some attorneys are questioning the need for additional monitoring.
Say you have hired someone that, and you know that they have a criminal record, and you are an employer who is interested in second chances and, has looked at the data and thought, oh, this person could be a good employee. Then I don't know that someone whose performance has been good using a continuous monitoring check. Do you really want to fire someone if their performance has been exactly what you need?
Ariel Nelson with the National Consumer Law Center says she's concerned about the errors that can come up in background checks, like mismatched or incomplete records. Also, the research showing Black Americans are arrested more often and may face disparities in the criminal justice system.
When we're relying on criminal records, we know who it's going to impact the most. And I think it's really important that we don't separate the issues between these background checks and the problems with our criminal justice system when we look at these issues.
Now, Miller says companies should be focusing on eliminating bias and discrimination in any continuous monitoring program they put into place. Well, prices keep going up, and that includes rent. Realtor.com reports they're up almost 20% over the last 2 years, averaging around $1,800 a month. But there is a silver lining. Monthly increases have recently cooled off, but rent is still eating up 30% of household income. Housing is considered affordable when it costs below that number. According to TripAdvisor, about a quarter of Americans are traveling this Easter weekend. The majority will drive, making the increasingly dangerous roads a little more crowded.
What we're talking about here is a rampant and persistent problem on a road that's very, very preventable, distracted driving.
The message is simple. Stay focused behind the wheel. Interacting with cell phones makes you 3.5 times more likely to get in an accident. The Governor's Highway Safety Association says on average, a driver spends 5 seconds looking at their phone. And if you're driving 55 miles an hour, that's like driving the entire length of a football field while blindfolded.
Not to be afraid to speak up in the vehicle. If you see mom or dad or a sibling that's picking up their phone while they're driving, say, hey, I want to be safe. I know you want me to be safe. Please put that phone down.
The number of people using devices in cars has come down before the pandemic, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. But distracted driving still claims an average of 9 lives each day. Injuries are around 400,000 every year, and distracted crashes are at more than 900,000. Distractions don't stop at cell phones.
A recent study we conducted really showed that, post-pandemic, 40% of respondents feel that they're actually more anxious, and about 1/3 of the respondents indicated that they'd have to pull over because they were too emotional to drive.
Now, car makers are highlighting features like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Bluetooth to keep people's hands on the wheel and eyes on the road. You can also set notifications on your phone to alert someone that you are driving and can't respond. Car safety advocates are also working with states and employers to institute no cell phone while driving policies. There are even apps that reward you for not using your phone while driving. Advocates say incentives, technology, education, and legislation all make a big difference. But here's what's even more valuable.
But the most important safety feature in your car is you being a safe driver.
This very mean, can't handle him. Buddy, you're gonna fall.
Oh, well, meet Hendrix, a dog in Riverside, California, who was labeled as too aggressive to find a home and instead was set to be euthanized. Our partners at Newsy found he's one of many animals that get labeled this way, even though, as you can see, it's not accurate.
You slap a label on a dog in the most traumatizing day of their life and leave it on them for over a month, and then they die because of it.
The Best Friends Animal Society, a national nonprofit, reports in 2019, shelters euthanized 625,000 cats and dogs. In 2020, that number was nearly cut in half, but only because of how high adoption rates were during lockdown. Staffing at shelters plays a big role in this. There often are not enough workers spending time with the animals that can update their label after they arrive. Nationally, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports median pay for an animal care worker is only $26,000 a year. That's below the poverty line for a 4-person household. There's also a lack of funding from local governments across the country. Riverside, for example, slashed its budget this year for the Animal Services Department by $700,000. But money isn't the only issue.
What we need to do now, however, is continue to look at these best practice programs, things like intake intervention programs. How do we support people so they don't have to relinquish their pets? Programs like trap, neuter, return, where we're taking our community cats living out in our neighborhoods and fixing them, sterilizing them, and putting them back out rather than rounding them up.
In addition, the Best Friends Animal Society is also encouraging shelters nationwide to up their pay. As for Hendrix, he's now training to become a search and rescue dog so he can save others. More professional athletes are now using cannabis for pain relief, but research around this isn't solid. How the NFL is now getting involved.
As we continue our coverage for Children's Hospital Week, we want to shine a light on some of the miracles doctors are performing at McLean's. That includes saving a little boy who was accidentally run over by someone backing out of a driveway. While it didn't look good during the weeks on life support, his parents and doctors never gave up hope. 25 News anchor Naya Gonzalez has their story.
Abe Cox's story begins in 2018. The 13-month-old was playing in a driveway when a driver rolled out to leave. However, they didn't know the toddler was there until it was too late.
Abe had skull fractures, brain bleed, 7 broken ribs, liver and spleen contusions, and then to find out his lungs were very, very hurt.
On life support in the PICU at McLean Children's Medical Center, the next 21 days were touch and go.
We threw everything at him, including the kitchen sink, to keep him alive.
His mom praying for a miracle.
It was everything you would imagine, right? On your hands and knees, crying, why me? Why is this happening?
Those prayers finally answered 3 weeks later when doctors took Abe off life support.
So on 21 days, we pulled the life support. He took his own first breath, and I will say those 21 days felt like 2,000.
Now 4 years old, Abe's mom says he's just a normal kid. Forever grateful for the work of doctors and nurses at McLean's, Nicole and her husband started a nonprofit called the Able Foundation.
She fills my toy storage for me, like at least 3 times a year. So Jenny's toy box gets stocked and all the kids in the PICU get toys. So it's definitely been very heartwarming.
Naya Gonzalez reporting there. The Able Foundation has also provided therapy equipment for the hospital. Nicole Cox says she also serves on McLean Children's Advisory Board. Now, if you want to support the miracle workers at McLean Children's, pull out your phone and scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you to a donation page partnered with 25 News, giving back all week long. A new veterinarian app and website created at Texas A&M is giving vets the ability to access and report disease information in livestock. The Veterinary Syndromic Surveillance System, or VSS app, allows veterinarians to report and investigate disease outbreaks in farm animals such as cattle, horses, and sheep. The new technology also provides users with real-time information and integrates artificial intelligence to monitor information, allowing experts to develop a diagnosis plan based on collected data and treat animals quicker.
We can monitor this real time, so they can go into a website and in any given day they can look at it. It takes about 2 minutes for once a syndrome is posted till it'll appear on a map. And there's little flags, they can pull that up, and so what kind of syndrome, where it happened, what county, what zip.
In addition to the state of Texas, the VSS app can also be utilized by veterinarians in the state of New Mexico and Arizona.
Well, more Americans filed jobless claims last week. The newsfeed starts with that report out today from the Labor Department. Jobless claims rose by 18,000, now totaling 185,000. Even with last week's uptick, though, numbers overall remain historically low. Just days after Elon Musk decided not to join Twitter's board of directors, he's now offering to buy the company for about $43 billion. Twitter's board is reviewing this proposal. The richest man in the world already has 9% stock in Twitter. Top executives around the world are questioning if their companies could be more environmentally sustainable. In a recent Harris poll, 58% admitted their companies were guilty of greenwashing, which is misleading consumers on environmental practices. A proposed SEC rule would require companies to report climate emissions along with climate risk for the first time. Well, various branches of the federal government have goals to advance racial equity. Strategies laid out by the White House today show federal agencies' equity action plans, They include special attention on nearly every traditionally underserved community, from rural areas to people with disabilities. We've called attention to some of the plans, like the Department of Housing reducing bias in home appraisals. Other initiatives include helping those who speak limited English to better report crimes and helping Native Americans apply for more grants. A growing number of pro athletes are turning to cannabis for pain relief as an alternative to opioids. There's currently little research on the benefits, but Amanda Brandeis shows us how the NFL is now investing in new research in hopes to understand more.
In America's favorite sport, pain is part of the game.
Probably close to 70% of the NFL players are exposed to opioids through the course of their career, and many of them remain on opioids. Been doing pain medicine for 30 years, and I've seen the negative effects of the opioids and what they've done.
Dr. Mark Wallace has spent 2 decades studying cannabis as an alternative.
I've taken hundreds and hundreds of patients off of opioids with cannabis.
At the forefront of advancing medicinal cannabis science, his team at UC San Diego is now being recruited by the NFL.
It's not a secret that many of the NFL players are using cannabis. I mean, many elite athletes are using cannabis, and they report anecdotally that it helps them recover faster, and they prefer it over using an opioid.
With grant money from the NFL, they're studying the potential benefits and side effects of using cannabis for post-game injuries. Most evidence today looks at its use for chronic pain.
The NFL, they say it's hard for them to throw support to something that has absolutely no evidence. So they've taken the leap to provide the funding to look for some evidence.
Relaxing its rules on cannabis, the league no longer suspends players who test positive for marijuana. And in the off-season, they're not tested for the drug at all. But they won't be allowed to participate in this study. Researchers instead recruiting professional rugby players.
A lot of the rugby players are more than willing to participate. They're looking for an answer too.
Wallace says proper dosage is critical.
We've learned how to dose it. We've come a long way, because if you don't dose it right, you can actually make the patients worse. You can worsen their pain. But if you dose it right, you can improve sleep, improve mood, reduce pain.
Using a handheld vaporizer, injured athletes will get up to 4 doses of cannabis a day. But league-wide changes are likely still far off, in part because the drug is still illegal under federal law.
They understand it is a Schedule II drug that has varying state laws. We're hoping that this will lead to larger studies within the NFL.
I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
Interesting stuff there, Amanda. Thank you for that. The NFL grant supports 2 years of research, and researchers will begin working with rugby players in January. They hope to have new data by the end of next year. With record high inflation, we're all looking for ways to protect our money.
Just spend your money faster. The stuff that you need to buy it immediately.
Now, that may seem like the opposite of what you want to do. We'll tell you why economists say it's actually good advice.
This
Easter weekend is here, and it looks like we will be seeing a decent weekend, but there could be a couple of showers and thunderstorms from time to time. Not tonight, though, and it looks like most of Friday is going to be okay as well. So let's check out our future track showing that the low clouds will be working back in the morning hours. This is 7 o'clock Friday morning. Low clouds, maybe a little drizzle across our southern areas. And then I think it stays partly to mostly cloudy for tomorrow. So a lot more cloud cover than what we saw today, but really not looking at much in the way of rain chances. Maybe an isolated shower here or there. Then we get to Saturday, and that's when we have clouds in the morning, maybe some drizzle. And I think the same thing's going to be said for Sunday morning as well. So sunrise services, probably going to be cloudy out there, and we will be seeing the chance of isolated thunderstorms both Saturday and Sunday right now. Future track not showing too much around here Saturday afternoon. But again, 1 or 2 isolated storms can't be ruled out. So for tonight, temperatures will be down into the 50s and 60s. We'll go 58 Bryan College Station and Hearn, over to Cameron, and 54 in Centerville. Then tomorrow, highs into the low to mid 80s. So it is going to be a warm Friday out there. And as we take a look at your forecast, those temperatures will be on the warm side going into Saturday and Sunday as well, with highs in the low to mid 80s. Isolated thunderstorms Saturday, maybe a slightly better chance on Sunday with a weak front in the area. That'll take us down to 79 degrees Monday, 20% chance of an isolated storm. Same for Tuesday, and then maybe another slightly better chance for rain by next Thursday.
1 in 5 eligible workers is not claiming the earned income tax credit. It's leaving millions of dollars in tax refunds unclaimed across the country. Tomorrow, the free resource that can show you what you're eligible to get now and from past years. But still to come today.
Mixed people are beautiful people. America 2050 is going to be beautiful.
2050? Ooh.
So like 2030.
It's a shift we're already seeing, with more people than ever now identifying as multiracial. We're looking into the broader implications this could have.
The
The racial reckoning our country has been experiencing for years is impacting how people look at themselves. More than ever, people are now identifying as multiracial. Dan Grossman looks at the significant impact this may have on policy and how people vote.
Yes, the most recent census came out last year, but the effects from its data will be felt for years, if not decades. One of the most noteworthy numbers, 4 times as many Americans identified as mixed race as they did just 10 years ago. It's a massive increase. So I sat down with a mixed race couple to see the effects this is having on them, as well as the discussion of race in America.
When we meet those we love, how else can you describe it?
You know what a clap sync is?
Talk to me.
Other than feeling in sync.
At the same time.
One more time.
Hey.
One more time.
For 3 years, Demetrius Nelson and Danny Joseph
All right, you guys ready to do this?
Ready.
have shared their lives and the passions, the music,
different vibes,
the foods that define them.
Creole food.
It's nice.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
fried chicken.
Yeah, fried chicken.
Grilled chicken.
Kool-Aid.
No seasoned chicken. Psych, yeah, right.
Oh my, not around, yeah, everything is seasoned around here, okay?
All right. Remember way back when I told you I would have it all, yeah. Amen. It made it easier to be with someone who does come from the same background as me, multicultural, multi-race.
Between the two, Demetrius and Danny are Black, Polish, Irish, Native American, and Chinese.
I definitely get asked, like, what are you? A lot. So.
And conquer any fear I ever had. Bring it back. Never messed with me then.
A melting pot of experiences and cultures that is becoming more common than it ever has been before.
I bring it back.
During the 2020 census, 33 million Americans identified as being two or more races, more than 4 times the number that did only 10 years prior when Demetrius was growing up.
I remember being in a predominantly black high school freshman year, and everybody knew me as Justin Timberlake. Yeah, which was pretty intense and funny, though, because even though I'm biracial, I'm lighter than all of them.
So there were these unknown questions, but there's also a tendency for some people to think that these changes are an indication of greater equality.
Reginald Daniel is a sociology professor at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and identifies as mixed race himself. He says this increase has the potential to shift our perceptions about race, but it remains to be seen. Again, 25 million more Americans identified as multiracial between 2010 and 2020. It means not only do more interracial couples exist, but more people are embracing their diverse backgrounds in a way they hadn't before. People who are advancing the discussion around race and rising to places of influence.
There are significant implications in terms of earning capacity, educational outcomes for people of lighter skin within communities of color, as well as in the larger society.
That's my favorite part. For Demetrius, though, this has always been who he is, and it's always been a part of what he's done.
Melodies and things that I know I would not be able to think of if it wasn't for my genetic bloodline. To use my platform and my passion to give my side of the story. The devil knows that I sin.
It's a story that is still being written by people like these two who have an idea of how it might end.
Mixed people are beautiful people. America 2050 is going to be beautiful.
2050?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So like 2030?
Sooner.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Grossman.
Now, you just heard him say 2050, but when will this actually happen? The Census Bureau projects the U.S. will become a majority-minority country sometime between 2040 and 2050. It's getting more expensive to be in debt, and older Americans are feeling it the most. Since the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates to offset inflation, credit card debt has been growing the most for people over 70. The Senior Citizens League reports nearly half of older Americans say it's because they've had to spend all of their emergency savings. Americans over 70 owe a collective $380 billion in credit card debt, and that's more than triple the amount in 2010. With all the ways inflation is impacting our lives, and our wallets. We're looking at what you can be doing right now to protect your money. Vanessa Mashanya has that help from economists.
Because of inflation, buying anything right now kind of feels like walking into a casino, sitting down at a slot machine, and just watching your money disappear. And while shopping strategy may not necessarily hit you a jackpot, I did speak with an economist who said it can save you a significant amount of money.
Just spend your money faster. The stuff that you need to buy it immediately.
That was Scott Shue. He's a macroeconomist and professor at West Virginia University. Now, spending your money quickly may sound like the exact opposite thing you want to be doing right now, but inflation is at a 40-year high. And he tells me that prices are rising so quickly that, say, waiting until the end of the month to do your shopping will definitely end up costing you more.
You also have to be careful because you don't want to overspend and get to the end of the month and then have to put things on credit cards. But at least you can save 1 month of inflation by buying stuff sooner.
And that new large appliance like a dishwasher or a fridge that you were planning on putting off?
If inflation stays high, maybe that thing I was going to buy a year or two from now, I ought to think about finding a way to buy it now.
Something else Shue told me to consider is buying in bulk. Sure, buying the one roll of toilet paper is much cheaper than buying the pack of 20, but each roll in that 20 pack is much cheaper than that one. So it's going to last you a long time and save you a lot of money in the long run.
Find some ways to buy larger amounts so that my per unit cost over a longer period of time is going down. That also helps offset some of this inflation.
Times are so out of whack right now that used car values are increasing. The price of an average used car at the end of last year was $28,000. That's up 28% from 2020 and up 42% from 2019. And Shue says that it could be a good idea for some of us to sell our cars right now.
It's kind of like sell high and buy low. Shifting from a used car, a good used car that's really desirable and could get you a good return that you'll probably never see again, and leverage that into purchasing a newer car is a nice budgeting play.
Just a few things to think about so the next time you spend some money doesn't quite feel so much like a losing bet. I'm Vanessa Mashanya reporting.
Thanks for watching Krhd News at 6. I'm back tonight at 10. Until then, have a good evening.